In the early 2nd millennium BCE, the lower town of ancient Kanish was a hub for high-stakes transfers of silver, tin, and timber. This was a globalized Bronze Age economy, operating across a supply chain that spanned from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. Without digital networks or photographic identification, merchants faced a constant threat. A single forged contract could collapse a lifetime of trade. A common modern misconception claims the Babylonians solved this by using fingerprints pressed into clay as a form of intentional biometric identification. However, the historical record shows no evidence that the Mesopotamians understood the uniqueness of friction ridges. To them, a fingerprint was merely an accidental smudge in the mud. For those who could not afford custom-carved seals, the law recognized a different bodily mark, the support. This involved digging one's fingernails directly into the wet clay of the document. Because these gouges were visually indistinguishable from one person to the next, they carried no forensic weight on their own. For the mark to be valid in court, a scribe had to write a cuneiform label next to the indentation, explicitly identifying the owner. Identity verification was a performative act. It relied on a public bodily commitment witnessed by officials, rather than the mathematical comparison of biological data. For the elite and state institutions, security required specialized hardware. They utilized the geochemical plasticity of alluvial river mud and the extreme hardness of imported stones like lapis lazuli. Artisans mastered intaglio carving to create cylinder seals. By engraving imagery in reverse, as a negative depression in the stone, the seal could be rolled across wet clay to produce a raised, continuous positive relief. Because these seals were carved by hand with primitive bow drills, no two stones were identical. The unique depth and microscopic irregularities of the carving acted as a physical signature that was practically impossible to replicate. To prevent the re-wetting and alteration of text, Mesopotamians engineered the clay envelope, or bulla. A scribe wrapped the primary contract in a secondary clay sheet, locking the data inside a tamper-proof shell. In a dispute, a judge would fracture the outer envelope. If the protected inner tablet didn't match the exterior, the fraud was exposed. This system was mandated by the Code of Hammurabi. Babylonian law was uncompromising. Any major trade conducted without written contracts and sealed documentation was classified as theft, a crime punishable by death. This combination of material science, spatial engineering, and strict notarial law created the world's first zero-trust environment for international trade. While the wealthy used stones to prove their identity, the working class who molded the tablets left behind a different kind of record. As scribes and potters handled the wet mud, the friction ridges on their fingers naturally transferred into the highly plastic clay matrix. When these objects were fired in kilns or baked during citywide fires, these microscopic skin impressions were effectively fossilized. Extracting data from these prints requires solving a significant engineering problem: clay shrinkage. As water evaporates from the clay during firing, the silicate matrix contracts. A fingerprint on an ancient tablet is physically smaller than the living hand that made it, often by as much as 15%. Researchers must establish precise shrinkage algorithms for different river muds to mathematically correct these measurements before they can analyze the biology of the print. These prints are often hidden. Scribes frequently pressed their seals or fingers into the wet clay before violently inscribing the cuneiform text directly over them. After 4,000 years of surface wear and deep stylus impressions, the biometric data is invisible to the naked eye. Digital archaeologists use high-resolution 3D scanners to capture the tablet's surface at a resolution of 10 micrometers, mapping the topology in extreme detail. The resulting 3D models are analyzed using the MSI algorithm. It measures the intersection of virtual spheres with the surface, mathematically distinguishing deep stylus wedges from shallow finger ridges. This filters out the text entirely, isolating a pristine topological map of the hidden fingerprint. This allows researchers to mathematically excavate data previously trapped under the physical structure of the text. Once isolated, anthropologists calculate the mean ridge breadth, the average distance between the friction ridges. While a person's ridge pattern is permanent, the physical distance between those ridges increases predictably as a hand grows into adulthood. This metric reveals the artisan's age. Narrow, dense ridges signify subadults, providing empirical evidence of child labor in scribal schools. In adults, measurements show clear sexual dimorphism. Males exhibit wider ridges than females, allowing scientists to identify the sex of the ancient potters and scribes. These accidental traces are rewriting our understanding of the Bronze Age workforce, revealing the demographics of the people behind the administration. The physical mechanisms the Mesopotamians used to secure grain shipments are conceptually identical to the digital systems we use to secure financial data today. The cylinder seal was a possessed token. The clay envelope was a hash. The rigid security system designed to enforce financial debt inadvertently fossilized the most intimate human legacy of the people who built civilization.